My name is Mark Slater. I'm the executive director of Raphael House San Francisco. And for those that don't know us, we've been part of the community for 53 years. We're a family homeless shelter that's been serving families who are experiencing homelessness since 1971. Our program actually started out back in the day as just a very short-term temporary shelter where when families are experiencing homelessness, they come to us for a day or two. And our program at the time is just trying to find them a place to navigate into their next stage of housing. Now, what has stemmed out of this program was basically what is Raphael House today. This idea of putting wraparound services, which it sounds like is happening also at the Tree Ring Village, is so critical basically to serve families who are experiencing homelessness, not just in our shelter, but also in our aftercare program as well too. So when families come to Raphael House, they come to us pretty much on the first day and they're given a key to their own individual room. They're giving access to a case manager that will look at them as an individual, to give them, making sure they're treated with dignity, with respect, and looking at what barriers they have to keep them from finding permanent housing, increasing their income, or helping their kids basically continue to find, means to, build on their education as well. Because really what inspires us at Raphael House at the end of the day is trying to break the generational cycles of homelessness that our families are experiencing. So that's a lot of the work that we do at Raphael House initially when they first come to us. Now, in the first 6 months of Raphael House, and that's the average time that families are staying in shelter, they're meeting with a case manager, they're meeting with our workforce development, professionals. They're also meeting with their family wellness professionals as well too, to meet their individual needs. And we're coming up with a case plan for them to first have a moment to breathe for the first month, just to kind of come down from the threshold, to kind of figure out what the next steps are. And we work with them individually to come up with a plan. We don't say go through door 1, 2, and 3. We actually say to them, and some say this is the first time someone's ever asked them this, what do you want to do next? Where do you envision yourself living? What do you want to see for your family, not just over the next 6 months or year, but the next 5 years? And how can we help to be a part of that? And a lot of what we do is we help them build a plan for what they want. And within the first 6 months, which is again the average time, we have a plan ready to go. So when they find their first step into permanent housing, they actually have access to what's called our Bridge program, which lasts up to their youngest kid being in the age of 18. So if a child's born at Raphael House, we will give them the same career development, youth education services, family wellness, and all the other services plus case management that we're providing up to the youngest kid being the age of 18. So we have this long-term safety net program that we're working with our families individually. And our statistics as of right now are 90% of our families remain permanently housed after 2 years of being, of leaving our program. And beyond that, it's even more. But at the same time, we always say this too with the statistics, 2-year statistics kind of get a little blurry because our families aren't re-engaging with their programs many times. They are moving on, they are finding success, and they're finding their own communities as well. Also, we've served over 20,000 individuals since our inception. And, we do have, like I said, our facility in the Tenderloin area, which is around 31 rooms. But at the same time too, I think our biggest impact is getting families into our program, out obviously into their communities, building communities around them, and also building, like I said, avocation kind of models around them as well too. So our Bridge program professionals also work with each one of them to find local services that will serve their kids, local workforce development services that may serve the parents, anything that serves their needs. So it really is continuing to build that relationship with them as well too. Now, many people ask two things: how are you funded and where your families come from. Traditionally, we are funded, and we are still funded as a 100% privately funded organization, which is great and also very challenging at the same time. What's great for us is it allows us to continue to look at the needs of the families and continually change our programs based on those needs. And that didn't become clear how important that was until COVID. When COVID struck, we took a very community-centric program where families are meeting every single week in a big family room, massive dining room where we're providing the meals to the families on a daily basis, building these kind of family play groups, teen circles, all the things that are about building community at Raphael House. We had to take all these services and basically make them virtual. And what was interesting was our staff, and I have to give my staff so much credit on this as well too, we're very flexible to change some of the natures of our programs to basically go online. We're also creating modules to give our families access to their own technology, things to help them overcome the digital divide, not just within shelter, but also when they leave Raphael House as well too. And working with our donors, again, with private donors, we're able to go to them and say, hey, a grant came in this year that was working on youth education, we really want to start maybe focusing more just on just tutoring services, but we need to add tech to that. We need to add, online tutoring services and other modules to make our kids more successful, and also consider mental health sides of it too. Like our kids need access to mental health during this very, very scary time for them. So working with our major donors, we were able to like flip some of these grants and some of these funds from donor advised funds to create a new program, which actually became our family stability program. Eventually, we actually developed a new program out of this. So when families leave Raphael House, that program actually evolved not just for youth education, but also giving access to technology and overcoming the digital divide for our kids and parents. It also became a way of us working with major donors to do subsidies, for housing subsidies, rent subsidies. We call it incidental subsidies, where individuals sometimes may come to us and say, hey, I'm behind on my car payment this month. I'm basically driving for Uber, or I'm, going to work every single day. I need to have access to this car for my family and for my livelihood. And instead of us just saying, hey, we'll write you a check and here you go, we do that. We also say, let's help you see what's the deeper problem behind this. How can we help you basically solve that? How did you get into the situation? What are the other needs that you might have? What are community resources that you have in your own area? And let's help advocate to make sure that you have this full body of resources surrounding you. So a lot of what we do is that personal one-on-one kind of, case planning with each family. And by removing those barriers slowly within shelter and continue to remove those barriers within our bridge program, we also feel that's why our families are really finding so much more success, and also really trust our community to come back during really critical times in their lives to actually ask us for, resources when they need it. I think that's so important. There's trust there to know that we're able to take care of them. So we call ourselves the Raphael House community, and anyone, whether it's our families, whether it's our staff, whether it's our donors, we're all part of the same community, really adhering to the same mission. Now, how do families find us? Families find us just like anyone else or any other shelter in San Francisco. Though we were 100% privately funded, like I said, we still work within coordinated entry or the one system, and families basically come to us through those means. And the reason why we do that is that we've always been a community partner working with the city, regardless of funding structures. The city's been a great partner for Raphael House as well too. And it allows us basically to make sure that our families have the complete variety of resources available, not just within Raphael House, but within through other organizations and other things that the city can provide as well too. So it allows a organization like us to be a little bit more impactful by serving our families within this capacity. And also it allows us to make sure that when families come to us, we already know right away what resources that they need. I mean, they come into the room the first night, we have all the beds set up, we have the stuff set up for the kids, we have a welcome package ready for the parents. We know what they need from day one. We set them up with, whatever they will make them feel like they're at home, and making sure that they have the resources available to them day one. We don't want families showing up at Raphael House with all their stuff, gathered in the hallway, not knowing where to go. We have them show up to our facility with, our residential counselors, giving them a big smile and saying, welcome to Raphael House. This is your home. Please, please ask us anything you need during this time. So we really pride ourselves in the idea of treating individuals with that, I said, dignity, respect, and making sure that, we're giving them all the services and the partnerships and relationships to succeed. So, that's who we are and what we do. Do you have any questions?
Since your housing seems fairly long term, how many openings do you tend to have, say, in a given month, every month?
Within our own shelter?
Yes.
Surprisingly, actually, we are usually around capacity. We have about maybe one or two that come available within the time frame of families exiting, and also then coming in via coordinated entry.
And forgive me if you mentioned this already, how many people are you able to accommodate at any given time?
So last year, just a yearly basis, because again, ebbing and flowing based on the size of the family, we served 98 individuals within shelter, and around 700 individuals collectively between our shelter and bridge program as well too.
Okay.
And we actually have some further, what we're doing right now is we have some further space we're trying to make available, but of course, having a 113-year-old building that we own, capital needs are always a challenge, and obviously a lot of our funding goes towards specifically our program and our families as well. So that's something we're building on.
So if I find somebody on the street, a mom with a couple kids,
Yeah.
and she needs a place to go, would I go to Raphael House or would I go somewhere else? Could you help in that emergency situation, or do you guide?
We always have, if you always have any questions, people do come to us in with those scenarios, but we also do help those individuals find the way into the coordinated entry, because it is really important, again, for them to go through and have, get access to all the resources within the city as well too. But we also do act as a guideway, and also we're part of 211. If people have questions, we guide them to there as well too.
You may have already answered this, but
Yeah.
how long on average does a family stay in your program?
We're pretty lucky. It's 6 months. So our family, typically it could be anywhere, I think with another shelter, 6 months to about a year, but our focus is about 6 months.
So you're saying after they're with you 6 months, then you have a 90% success rate of them remaining housed, and you track that 2 years.
Yes. And we are able to track that too, because they enter our bridge program, which is once they find permanent housing, they go into the bridge program, which again is the program itself, but housing.
So 10 years down the road, you don't track that. You don't have stats for that, but at least for the 2 years after they get out. So that's congratulations. That's great.
Yeah. And as you might know with statistics, it depends upon the sample that you have. A lot of our families too, the ones that come back, we do have people that say, hey, we're still housed 7 years out. My kid wants to go to summer camp this year, but we're having some challenges. So it allows us to basically do that. So we have some data points that are longer. And we also have people that do come back to us many years later. One of our board members came back and said, I started here in 1972 with my mom. And she basically said, I don't know what I would have done without Raphael House. And now she's basically a podiatrist with her family living in Benicia. And because her mom found Raphael House back then, they never experienced homelessness again. So we do have stories of people that come back and tell us that. But yes, the data points, which are so hard. And if any other organization has a way of really seeing, how you can really get good data beyond 2 years, if people are having challenges, then we have data points saying, okay, these people are having challenges. This is where they're at. But our most successful families, many ways, just are excited to move on, and kind of live their lives. So it's also kind of heartwarming as well too. But thank you for asking.
My name is Ellen. I live in District 9. That's my board of supervisor right here.
Yeah.
And I used to work for public health, and I work with a lot of homeless shelters and families.
Yeah.
Any homeless should not be transitioned more than a year. Homeless is temporary, not permanent.
Yes.
I just want to make that point.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That's 100%. And actually, that's how we see it as well too. The view of the organization is that any one of us can experience homelessness. I mean, this is something we even bring to our board and myself. So homelessness is a temporary state. It shouldn't define an individual. It is basically a state that they're currently experiencing at that time. Any one of us could. We actually have families, they can stay with us up to a year and a half. I mean, they could stay, there's no time limit actually in our shelter. And during COVID, we had families that are staying longer. But our average right now really is 6 months. And the things that are helping, again, are aspects of our program. And I will say too, it's really changed over the last year is there's more affordable housing available within San Francisco for our families to move back into areas of their communities where they're from, and also in the surrounding areas as well too. So the more we work on affordable housing and have access to that, or subsidized housing, as well, that's been very important for our families to find success.
I have a logistical question for you. So if you have, 98 residents or so on property at any given time, how many caseworkers do you have working with those people?
So 98 is the average for the year. And basically, so right now we're serving around maybe 16 rooms. And, we have at one time, because we're looking to expand some of our other rooms. And that's a whole other thing with capital needs right now that we're kind of going through. But at the same time, we have 2 caseworkers pretty much for our 16, families that are at Raphael House.
Okay, great. So that's 16 not 16, you have 16 rooms, and that could house multiple people from one family.
Yes. And we have, like I said, we have up to 31 rooms available, but also we're in the process of doing a remodel right now over this year. So that's a big part of also our capital needs that we're working with.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
So
Thank you,
I'm
Mark.
the one who put the Raphael House up on Web3, but it looks like I have to do some updating. So there's a lot of stuff I learned today. So it's great. So I hope you spend some time with the group here. I know that there's at least one person here that runs a free camp for kids that are reentry, and they would like to do a summer camp. They want to connect with you, so make sure you connect with some of the folks in the back here.
Yes, we have we would love to. We support a summer camp as well too, and more individuals and more organizations you can work with, even better for our kids. That's great.
That's incredible. One more question.
I have a question. So conventionally, we call them homeless, but I guess why we're not calling it houses? Because technically, they probably have a community and home.
Yeah. So many ways. Why aren't we calling them unhoused versus yes?
Yeah. So I feel like houseless or unhoused would be more a nicer way, I guess.
I fully agree. And actually, I think we say families are experiencing homelessness, but I think also unhoused is a much better way of describing it as well too. And changing that part of the lexicon, I think, is really important.
Right. A lot of the